Hi everyone, I'm Amanda from Easy English Online. Today I have a great new video for you. In just over 30 minutes, I'm going to teach you multiple ways to introduce yourself to someone with typical topics of conversation, which I'm sure will come in very handy to all of you guys who are learning English out there. First of all, just a reminder, if anyone is interested in having one-to-one lessons with me, then I've provided a link in the description box below, which will give you a special discount on English lessons. So don't forget to check that out. As always, to accompany the video, I've prepared some notes for you to download. I will explain how you can download them at the end of the video. So for now, just sit back and enjoy the lesson. So let's start with the most common question we may need to ask when we first meet someone. When we want to ask someone what their name is, we say, "What is your name?" What is your name? You can, of course, just simply ask, "What is your name?" Or if you feel this sounds a little abrupt, you could try softening it by asking, "May I ask you what your name is?" Or would you mind telling me your name? So how would we answer this? Well, we could simply say, "My name is," and then your name. So my name is. This is the most common way to tell people our name. So you'd say, "My name is Amanda." "My name is Sandra." "My name is Paul." If you feel uncomfortable asking someone's name, there is another way you can find out their name which sounds less direct, and that's simply to introduce yourself first. So you could say, "Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm your new English teacher, and you are..." And then the other person will hopefully answer with, "My name is Peter," or "Hi, I'm Katie." If you have forgotten someone's name, the minute after they've just told you, it can be a little bit embarrassing. We've all done it. Maybe you've forgotten their name the next time you see them. Just as embarrassing. So in this situation, you could simply say, "I'm sorry, what did you say your name was?" You're apologizing here, which does sound polite. And also, by using the word "was" in the sentence, you are telling the person that you may have forgotten their name, but you haven't forgotten them. "I apologize. Could you repeat your name again?" Here, you're apologizing again, which is polite, and are using the word "again," which again shows you haven't forgotten them. If you feel uncomfortable about that, you could ask, "Do you have a nickname?" This is a shortened name that someone might call themselves. "Do you have a nickname?" The person may say, "No, people just call me Michael." Or he might say, "Yes, my friends call me Mick." Okay, so what if we would like to know how old somebody is? This can be a very controversial topic, and as it can be very rude to ask people in some cultures how old they are, especially to women who may prefer to keep their age to themselves. However, in some cultures, it is perfectly acceptable to ask how old somebody is. If you feel it's appropriate to ask someone's age, you could simply say, "How old are you? How old are you? What age are you?" This is more formal. What age are you? So how do we answer these questions? We could simply say, "I am 15 years old. I'm 15 years old. My son is 5 years old. My son is 5 years old. My puppy is 4 months old. My puppy's 4 months old." A lot of native speakers would simply say, "I'm 15, I'm 35. Or they would probably just say the number, 15, 35. It's grammatically incorrect, however, to say 15 years. This would definitely be incorrect. Or 35 years. You do need to add old here. So it's 15 years old. 35 years old. Now, if you then prefer not to give your age, you could answer with, I prefer not to say my age. And of course, this is perfectly acceptable to say this. I prefer not to say my age. Or I prefer not to disclose my age. This is a lot more formal, but perfectly fine too. I prefer not to disclose my age. So another common question that we ask when we meet up with someone, we often say, how are you? How are you? I'm fine, thank you. We find ourselves saying these same phrases again and again, don't we? Let's look at how to ask, how are you? This can sometimes sound quite formal to a native speaker. Can you think of a way we can ask and answer this question in a more natural way, perhaps? There are so many ways of asking, how are you? But sometimes we do need to be careful because some of these phrases don't work in all situations. So let's start with looking at some alternative ways of saying, how are you? In informal situations. We could say, how's everything going? Or simply, how's it going? What's going on? We could say, what's new with you? How are you keeping? How are things with you? We could say, what's up? How are you doing? Long time no see. You all right? This one's very British. In fact, if you say this outside the UK, you might get looked at very strangely. It's also shortened to, all right. Now, what about more formal situations, like talking to your boss or talking to royalty? How would you ask, how are you? A bit more formally. So you could say, how do you do? This is very formal and could possibly be asked while shaking hands in a formal setting, like an interview. How have you been? Are you well? Okay, so let's now look at how to answer, how are you? If someone asks, how are you? Or how's it going? Or what's up? The classic response is, I'm fine, thanks, right? But this can sound a little bit boring after a while. So let's try some different responses. What can we say instead of, I'm fine, thanks? We can say, I'm good. You can shorten this to good if you're feeling relaxed, or pretty good. I'm well. Like with I'm good, you can shorten this to well, or great. I can't complain. Okay, so sometimes you're not feeling so fine, or well, or good. Sometimes you just want to say that things are, well, kind of just okay. So what could we say here? We could say, I'm okay, or so-so, not too bad. Same old, same old. Yeah, all right. Well, I'm alive. This one's kind of a joke that suggests you're just about surviving life. Or you could say terrible. If you're not feeling too great, but you don't want to sound like you're complaining too much, then you could say, well, I have been better. Or same as always. Or I can't complain too much. One interesting fact to remember, though, is that quite often, when a native speaker asks, how are you, they are often simply being polite. They're not actually asking about your health. So sometimes, if you do respond with an actual health issue, it may take them by surprise. They would then politely ask what is wrong, and you would then have to answer. So, oh, I have a stinking headache, or I have such a stressful day at work, etc. So, our next expression, if we have just met someone new, we may be interested to know more about them, like where they're from, etc. Where do they come from? Sometimes this can cause some confusion when someone asks, where are you from? I mean, do they actually mean, where were you born? Or where do you live now? Or do they mean both? So usually, where are you from means where were you born? What country are you from? What city or region did you grow up in? This can sometimes get confusing if someone was, say, born in France, grew up in Spain, and is now living in Germany. So it is sometimes best just to simply politely ask exactly what you mean to say, if you feel it's appropriate. Like, where were you born? Where were you born? Did you grow up there? Did you grow up there? Where do you live now? Where do you live now? So how do we answer these type of questions? We could simply say, I've always lived here. Or, I come from London. I come from India. You could be more specific and you could say, I was born in New Zealand. I grew up in the Swiss Alps for the first 10 years of my life, and now I live in Paris, in France. So some other ways to show interest in where someone is from is to say something like, oh, I love your accent. Are you from Australia? And they will soon correct you if they're not. No, I'm from New Zealand. You could ask, have you always lived there? Where is home now? The next useful expression that we're going to look at is, what do you like to do in your free time? What do you like to do in your free time? What are your hobbies? An interesting fact is that native speakers will rarely use the word hobbies in casual conversation. It seems more natural to simply ask, what would you like to do in your free time? Although this is the most common way to ask this question, we could also ask, how do you spend your time when you're not working or going to school? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? What do you like to do at the weekend? You could say, what movies do you like to watch? What music do you like to listen to? Do you like sports? What do you like to do to keep yourself fit? So how do we answer all of these questions? Well, we could say, in my free time. In my free time, I like to read thrillers. In my free time, I like to hang out with my friends. In my free time, I like to go canoeing. Or you could say, my hobbies are. So my hobbies are reading books and working out. My hobbies are walking my dog and spending time with friends. My hobbies are swimming and playing tennis. You could say, I love to do something. So I love to travel. I love to go to the theatre. I love to hike in the mountains. Another way is to say, at the weekend, I like to do something. At the weekend, I like to go fishing. At the weekend, I like to do the gardening. At the weekend, I like to go to the beach. You could say, I enjoy. I enjoy drawing. I enjoy dancing. There are so many ways. You could say, I'm into something. So being into something means you like something a lot. So you'd say, I'm into playing the piano. I'm into painting. I'm into learning languages. You could say, I'm interested in. So I'm interested in French history. I'm interested in the history of art. I'm interested in learning about different countries and cultures. You could say, what movies or films do you like to watch? I love to watch romantic comedies. I like thrillers. I don't like horror movies at all. What music do you like to listen to? I like pop music. I love classical music. I like to listen to opera. You could say, do you like sports? I play tennis every Saturday. I play golf on Tuesday evenings. Or I like to go swimming most mornings. I take a fitness class twice a week. Now you may feel passionate about your interests or your hobbies. So if you want to emphasize just how much you enjoy your hobby, try using the word really before the word like. For example, you could say, I really like hiking in the mountains. I really like swimming in the sea. I really like dancing. If you want to play something down a little bit, you can use kind of before the word like, or kinda before the word like. So you would say, I kind of like playing golf if it's a nice day. I kind of like gardening. I kind of like walking in the park if the sun is out. So another question you may like to ask when trying to get to know someone new is to ask about their family. Are they married? Are they single? Etc. This could be a potential minefield and you don't want to offend anyone. So what could we say here? You could ask them directly. This is the simplest and most straightforward way. If you're confident and brave, this is the perfect way to ask them. You could simply say, are you married? Are you married? Are you single? Are you single? Do you have a partner? Do you have a partner? Then they could answer with, yes, I'm married. Yes, I'm married. Or, yeah, I've been married for 5 years. Yeah, I've been married for 5 years. Or yes, I'm married with 3 children. I'm married with 3 children. Or they could say, not yet, but I'm engaged. Or yes, I'm single. I'm single. This whole topic can be a little awkward at times, as you may not want the other person to think that you have a romantic interest, especially if you don't. You're just curious. So some other softer or less direct ways of asking could be, are you close to your family? Are you married? Do you have children? Or where is your better half today? Have you come here with your wife or your husband today? Okay, so our next expression that we're going to look at is how to ask what somebody does for a living. What do you do? So, you meet someone new and you're interested to know what is their job. It shows you're interested in getting to know them. So a polite way to ask would be, what is your job? What is your job? Or what job do you do? What job do you do for a living? What kind of work do you do? What line of work are you in? These are all fine, of course, but they don't sound terribly natural to a native speaker. The most natural thing that we say is, what do you do? Short for, what do you do for a living? What is your job? Note the difference between saying, what are you doing? I'm cooking our evening meal. And what do you do? I'm a chef. The first one is asking, what are you doing? This means, what are you doing right now, at this moment? You answer it by using ing, the ing verb. I am singing. I am dancing. I am watching TV. The second one is asking, what do you do? Which is shortened and the most common way of asking, what do you do for a living? In casual conversation. It sounds much more natural. If native speakers are saying it, it can come out quite fast. It may sound a bit more like, what do you do? So how do we answer this question? What do you do? You can simply say, I am, and then your job title. So I am an English teacher. I am an engineer. I am a doctor. What if someone asks, where do you work? Now there are several different ways to answer this. So let's take a look. We could say, I work in, I work for, I work at, I work with. Note that by using different prepositions here, the answers mean slightly different things. So you work in a place. I work in an office. I work in a hospital. You work in a city or a country. So you say, I work in Paris. I work in Naples, in the south of Italy. You can also work in a department. So I work in sales. I work in marketing. I work in accounts. You work for or at the name of a company. So you would say, I work for Coca-Cola. I work for Google. You can also use for to talk about working for somebody famous. So you would say something like, I work for Bill Gates. I'm his personal assistant. Finally, you work with people or with things that are objects of everyday work. So you'd say, I am a doctor. I work with cancer patients. I'm a mechanic. I work with cars. So just a quick review here. So you say, I work for a company or a person. I work at a company. I work in a place or a city or a department or a general area. Or I work with people, with things. Okay, now we're going to talk about staying in contact with somebody. Now let's imagine we have just met someone and have hit it off with them immediately. So to hit it off with them means to get on well with them. So we would like to keep in touch with this person. We may wish to ask for their phone number or their contact details. So what could we say? We could say, it was lovely meeting you. Would you like to stay in touch? We could say, what is your phone number? What is your phone number? Would you mind giving me your number, please? Would you mind giving me your number, please? Sounds a little formal. Can I get your number? Can I get your number? Then the person answering this question could say, yes, of course. And they give you their number. Or, my number is. And then they give you their number. You could say, call me sometime. Now, some people may feel this is a little direct. So there are other ways that we can ask to keep in touch. I mean, nowadays, most people are on social media. So an alternative to asking, what is your phone number, could be something like, are you on Facebook? Are you on Snapchat? Do you use Skype? They may say yes or no. If they're on social media, you could then say, great, should I add you? What's your username? Should I add you? What's your username? Or, how do I connect with you on Facebook? How do I connect with you on Snapchat? The other person could answer with, yes, my username is, and then they give their username. My username is, followed by their username. If it is a more formal setting, maybe you're talking to a customer or maybe a future employer, etc., you could ask for the person's email. You could ask, please, could I have your email address? Please, could I have your email address? Or, what is your email address, please? What is your email address, please? The answer here could be, yes, my email address is, and they tell you their email address. My email address is, and they tell you their email address. There are occasions when you may need to ask someone for their address, or you have to give your own home address to somebody. Maybe you wish to invite someone to your house. Maybe you are ordering a delivery or takeout. If you wish to ask for an address, you could simply ask, please could you give me your address? Please could you give me your address? Or, what is your address, please? What is your address, please? They could answer with, my address is 2 Queen's Avenue, York. My address is 2 Queen's Avenue, York. You could also add, my postcode is, followed by your postcode. My postcode is, followed by your postcode. So the next thing we may like to ask somebody new is, where did you go to university? Did you go straight into a job? So how do we ask someone if they have been to college or university? This is a potential minefield, and one has to be especially careful not to offend the person that you're asking. We could be asking this in an informal and friendly way, just because we're interested and we want to know a bit more about a person. Or we could be asking in a more formal and direct way, perhaps in an interview or a more formal setting. So let's look at the informal way first. We need to be careful not to be too direct here and not to sound like we're demanding personal information that may or may not embarrass the person. Perhaps things didn't go well for them at school, or perhaps they decided further education was not for them. If you know the person has gone to college or university, or it is highly likely that they have, if you feel it's appropriate to ask, you could simply say, did you go to college? Did you go to college? Where did you go to university? Where did you go to university? And then the other person could say, yes, I went to Harvard. Yes, I went to the University of Exeter for 3 years. Or yes, I studied at Bath. Or yes, I studied at the University of Lincoln for 3 years. If you would like to know more, you could say, wow, that sounds interesting. What did you study there? What did you study there? What did you major in? What did you major in? The other person could then say, I studied maths. I studied theology. I majored in psychology. I majored in astrophysics. Now, perhaps you have no idea if the person is likely to have studied further. It's important not to offend or make them feel like you're judging them. So in this situation, you could say, did you go to college or university, or did you prefer to go straight into a job? And they could say, yes, I studied at the University of Bath. Or yes, I got a job. Yes, I got a job. I worked in a barber's. I worked in a florist. They could say, I worked for a car manufacturer. They could say, I went to work as an apprentice. I went to work as an apprentice. Other more friendly and less direct ways you could ask more about a person's education is to say, you seem to know so much about this topic. What did you study in college? Your English is really polished. Where did you learn it? You speak very confidently. Have you studied this topic? Now, you could be asking these questions in a more formal setting. Perhaps you're interviewing someone for a job and they require a degree for the position. Here it is, of course, more acceptable to be more formal, more direct and straight to the point. So you could ask questions like, what is your educational level? Have you been to college? Have you been to university? What is your degree in? What did you major in? Why did you choose your particular degree or major? What influenced your choice of university? How will your degree help you in this job? Okay, so you have met a new friend in a coffee shop or a local cafe, and you wish to offer them a drink or a snack. Or perhaps you're meeting in a more formal setting. So how do we do this? There are several simple ways that we can offer someone something to eat or to drink. The first one is, would you like a coffee? Would you like a tea? This expression is the most common way of offering something to someone. Would you like a drink? Yes, I would love an orange juice, please. Would you like a piece of cake? Yes, please. I would like the coffee and the walnut cake, please. May I offer you? This is quite polite and a formal way to offer someone a drink, perhaps at a social gathering or a restaurant. You could say, may I offer you a glass of wine with your meal? May I offer you some tea? You could say, do you want a cup of tea? You could also use this expression, which is more informal, to offer something to someone. Like, do you want another coffee? Yes, please. I would love another caramel latte, please. My personal favourite. Would you care for a cup of tea? This is a very formal way of asking someone if they would like something. You might often hear this expression in hotels and restaurants. Would you care for a glass of champagne, sir? Do you fancy? This is very British. This expression is often used in the UK. It's informal and is used to ask if they would like something. So you'd say something like, do you fancy a cup of tea? Do you fancy a coffee? Or simply, fancy a tea? Fancy a coffee? I'd love a cup of tea with milk. No sugar, please. How about, this is another informal way of asking if they would like something. How about a milkshake? A milkshake would be great, thanks. What flavours do they do? You could say, who wants something, or who would like, who fancies. These are often used when offering something to a group of people. So you would say, who would like something to drink? Who wants to share a bottle of wine? Can I get you some drinks? This expression is used especially when offering someone food or drink. Can I get you a drink to go with that cake? What will you have? And what can I get you? These two expressions are used when asking someone what they would like, especially in a restaurant or a bar or a coffee shop. You could say, the drinks are on me. What will you have? Good afternoon, sir. What can I get you? Well, that's it. So now you've learned some English phrases on how to introduce yourself in just over 30 minutes. I recommend you watch the video a few times so you fully understand the differences. As always, I've prepared a downloadable PDF with some notes for you. So if that interests you, please just click on the link below and you'll be able to download it right away. Now, if you're struggling on a specific area of English and you would like me to do a video on it, please let me know in the comments below. Anyway, I hope you liked the video, and don't forget to press that all-important like and subscribe button below. See you next time. Bye!